And we are live apparently, and one of the things I'm just doing is slightly overlapping. So if you're watching this now, ignore me while I'm here until we go over onto the miniairshow.co.uk site, which will happen after Jack and Andy RC have finished talking about problem solving. One of the problems they're having at the moment is it looks like Andy's video or sound is gone. And so Jack is there with two other people, none of which can hear him. This is fault finding in its truest sense, really. If I was organized, I'd have some sort of little banner saying stream starting soon, but I don't. But I do notice that at least 13 people are watching, so I'd better keep kind of talking until we can actually start properly. But as I said, there's a little thing here at the bottom that says go to www.miniairshow.co.uk for the chat. So that's the chat I'm going to probably be watching and maybe responding to if we can do stuff. Richard, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be on the other thing. And that's both Richard, Flyboy C as well. Doing good, thanks. Go over to miniairshow.co.uk and we'll be joining that in a second once other stuff has happened. And we'll be talking about interesting and weird builds for anybody that doesn't know. The Oddball contest is basically a celebration of people who have put together weird things or just weird components, really, and want to share them with the community. So I'll be going through some of them that were sent in, and I'll be deciding who's the winner. You guys can then disagree with me and shout in the comments once we get there. But for that, I have to wait. Jack is at the moment on the Mini Air Show site deciding how to problem solve some plug sockets. I think this is a general idea of problem solving. It's not so much about my motor doesn't work. The problem is not the symptom. This is the problem is the problem. On my way, but if I leave now, I miss this. You don't miss this at all, Richard, because what will happen once those guys finish doing their live stream, I will go over to that site. I will still be streaming here, but I'll be on that site as well doing it. So it's all clever internet stuff, maybe. It's not super clever because we're overrunning, but only slightly. And that's because the freestyle competition overran. Again, they needed that problem-solving advice there when we had issues, it would seem, connecting a radio up to Velocidrone to do one of the final flights. And of course, the solution was turn it off, turn it back on again, or at least quit the application and start it again. There's only a certain amount of time I can fill just talking to myself, though, so I hope these guys hurry up and finish. I'm just going to be telling you stuff I'm going to be repeating, basically about the Oddball. But I do have some awful video of my awful plane that I attempted to build in terms of what an Oddball entry should look like. That plane's going to fall over now. Imagine I've got some little banner up that's like saying, da, 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 stream starting soon. Just draw it on paper and hold it up. Tape it in front of my camera. 80% of fixes are restart the bugger. It's very true, although it can be a little bit frustrating. If you get a really weird problem and you restart it and it goes away, then it's kind of, well, what was the problem? I've solved it by rebooting it. But if it continues to happen, then it's really good to try and find the source of it, because it's kind of a sticky plaster over a problem as opposed to fixing it. But some things just do go wrong like that, computers especially. I can't hear that stream at the moment, but I have seen comments in their chat saying turning it on and off again. And someone's saying it's common with Hoovers too, which is really confusing in terms of a chat about how to fix drone-related problems. That is odd. How are you guys doing on this lovely day? Jay saying how it's been going. Not bad. not doing much. I'm still pretty much staying in, even though we're a little bit more freed up because I can't get out to a place that I can fly easily. So I've just been sat in, really. And how's everybody else on this reasonably nice day? It's quite nice outside. I've been out actually getting a little bit of fresh air in the garden, throwing Lurgy's chuck glider about that I tried building. I've just built one from a foam glider and a brushed whoop. Richard, you're a little bit late on the entry. We could have had you. Because as it stands, everybody that entered, because there are only 7 entries, which is 4 more than a freestyle contest to be fair, gets a mention and gets a little explanation of what they were doing. And I get to share it with you guys. And some of the ideas I think are really pretty good. I think they're wrapping up. Because Andrew/Frank is saying, I'm so sorry for screwing you on time. Me having said, yeah, I need about 25 minutes to get through this. I did a quick run through. Oh, we got some. I thought it was for quads only. No, it's for whatever. Richard, I did explain on my video, it anything you like. I didn't even say it had to fly. It can be anything. I said anything RC related. But we've got things like component-wise. We've got components for things like fitting LEDs. Lurgy's entered something for a car. So, yeah, there's some quads, some planes, some other stuff. Hoping to get out and make a video Sandal Castle. Oh, nice. So that sounds interesting, Caroline. I think the mix of footage might be interesting. You get the nice stabilized footage and then maybe cut between something going a little bit sort of divey down the walls or something, perhaps. I'm focused on about 4 windows at once here. I'm trying to work out if they're wrapping or not. The question's being asked, are you wrapping up? Yeah, already 6 minutes over. I'm going to have to talk even faster than normal. Richard, there's always next year. Lots of people wanted to do something, but just ran out of time, really. I actually thought we'd get a bit more. I figured people would be doing a little bit more building since we've all been sort of locked down a bit. But I get, people kind of lose their will to do it when it's like, well, what's the point of doing this? I can't really go out and do anything with it. So I know a bunch of people have been busy sort of finishing off projects that they sort of started and didn't get to, but others have been like, oh, what's the point of this? We can't get out and do anything. But we got a reasonable mix of stuff, which I'm itching to show you in the 23 minutes that I may have to do this, if Jack ever finishes. Jay, not being able to travel to fly and living next to an airport is a double whammy for you. I mean, I've just been in my garden and in the house, so not all bad. What's going on, Frank? Are they wrapping up there? I haven't got the sound on, so I can't tell. I'll do the old-fashioned technique of filling time to say hello to everybody. Hello, Caroline, MyJam1981, Andrew/Frank, Jerry/Gary, Richard Warwick, Jay, Flyboy C, which is another Richard, and Days FPV. Or is it Dayes? I don't know. And hi, Taff. Try living in Wales, at least think you can fly now. Yeah, the restrictions in Wales are still there. And reports on TV telling us today, don't come visit Wales, you're not welcome. I think they were generally worried that people were going to sort of start visiting Snowdonia and the beacons and things because, you know, obviously plates is a natural beauty. Oh, it looks like I'm on the main thing. Hello to everybody at Mini Airshow 6, where you should hopefully be watching me live. If you can hear me, make some sort of notice in the chat or something. And confusingly, I'm watching myself about 15 seconds ahead, which kind of makes sense. Yes, you're on the main thing, and presumably you can hear me in that case. Jack gone, CK on. Yes, and they can hear me. Everybody that's in the chat on YouTube, go over to Mini Airshow 6. I'll still be there, but you'll have chat there, and I can't watch two lots of chats. Hello, everybody. We're here for the Oddball competition. Now, what is the Oddball competition? It's basically a celebration of creating something a little bit weird, a little bit out there. You know, people put together quads and planes and stuff, but people go on and they tinker and they make it a little bit different. And that's kind of what we were celebrating today. We didn't have much time for people to get their entries in, and lots of people were like, oh, I was just going to build something, and they ran out of time. So we literally had wands of people coming along, putting their entries in. But we've put stuff together in a little sort of show, which I want to share with you guys now. Hopefully, if I press this button. No, bigger than that. There you go. I made a presentation. Let me just get rid of that banner. So hopefully people have got the idea now. And now I have to go onto a different window to make it go through. So yes, quick disclaimer before we start. I am an idiot. To explain what I mean about that, I said about an oddball might be something like this. This is a toy foam plane I got from a toy store for £3, and I wanted to make this fly. Did I make it fly? No. This is me attempting to make this fly because it had a very small motor. It wasn't good enough. But this is kind of the spirit of it. It's about having a go, even if it's completely useless, and seeing what comes of it. So I say this, I'm an idiot, because what's going to happen is you might see I'm lightly ribbing these people for what they're doing, but I don't come from any place of authority. So I'd just like to point out that, yeah, I'm an absolute idiot, and anything I say doesn't really matter because all these guys have built better things than me, with a couple of exceptions, perhaps. So first up, we've got Matt Stubbs. Matt, one of the Team Woolly guys, built something called a right-wing recon. And I'm just going to make this bigger so you don't have to look at me, and we can look at Matt together. So you will notice, first off, you can't really call this an oddball because it's just stunning. If you look at it, it's just a beautiful model that's been put together. Someone's saying I don't get chat on the Mini Airshow webpage. It should be on there. Try reloading the webpage. So I was really amazed by this because obviously it's got all these lovely cuts in it. But apparently when you talk to Right Wing and say, can I get a wing? If you talk to Chris nicely, who makes them, he'll do an extra bit of CNC work. So he actually cut all these little holes out for Matt to work on. And there's apparently another sort of sub-community of people building these right wings just to sort of fly them at dusk and put LEDs in them. So Matt sent me a bunch of pictures, which is all really impressive about the build and what happened basically to it. He's put a vector autopilot in. He's got this on Crossfire. And essentially, as you can see, all those little holes then got an LED in it. That's him with the paintwork done. And what he did after the LEDs went in, he laminated the entire thing, and this acted as a bit of a diffusion. So when he turned the lights on, you can see that each of the panels lights up and looks really, really nice. Unfortunately, he was still going through some of the problem shooting with, I think he had a problem with one of his Crossfire antennas. So he hasn't got any video of it flying. Here's a still, and it looks pretty amazing. He can fly this, he reckons, two 6,000 milliamp hour 4S packs, give him about an hour's flight time. Looks pretty amazing, and I can't wait to see how it actually does fly. Oh, Frank is saying that YouTube chat has been nerfed on mobile, unfortunately, so chat's on desktop only. So, yeah, feel free to chat on my one, and I'll try and keep track of what's going on. Right. Moving on to the next one. So we had then LEDs seem to feature very frequently in the guys that sent me submissions. It's like you can't fly anywhere, but if we can't fly anywhere, we might as well do it in the dark. So this next one's from William, or more popular online, I think I've seen him in the chat and on YouTube, as Catch-22 Mania. He basically wanted to fit out his Tiny Hawk with LEDs so he could fly it during the nighttime. And he was doing a couple of other builds as well. He told me he was doing a TIE Fighter, a proper model, and he's actually FPV'd up his little speeder bike here. Unfortunately, he didn't get to finish the TIE Fighter in time, but I think the speeder bike still looks cool. Anything where you can see the context of the bike there's really nice. So what he did, he stuck on some addressable LEDs to, hello, we need the next slide, there we go, addressable LEDs to his little Tiny Hawk, and he tried it outside at night. So he can switch the lights on, he can change the color all through his control. What he found is his initial attempt, he didn't quite have the lights right, brilliantly visible from the outside, but he had problems far along outside during the dark. Brought it back, readjusted the lights. He had some decent flights indoors. This is him flying his Tiny Hawk indoors in the dark, and it really does quite well for this. So that's an interesting one. He is going to give you the schematics on his YouTube page. I don't know if he's published that already. I didn't go back and check. But if not, check out Catch-22 Mania YouTube channel, and he'll be explaining how to put this together so you can go and fly in the dark as well. Just going to check for comments. Okay, nothing yet. So next one, we had Mark Russell, and he had another bunch of LEDs as well. You see how LEDs are just featured everywhere? And if you look at this still, you'll sort of see some LEDs around the front there, and it kind of looks almost built into the quad. And that's the interesting thing about this one. It's not really there. And I kind of like this because it's a way of putting LEDs on your quad and taking them off again. I just need to mention that Mark's another one of these sort of serial tinkerers. He sent me a couple of interesting designs. This one he called the Flapper-On, which is kind of a bit dodgy because Flapper-Ons already exist. This is a really interesting looking thing. You can apparently zip tie this to the bottom of the quad, and it's got a tilt switch. And when you invert in a quad, those little flaps all close. And the idea is you get more float time because you've got more air resistance happening on your quad. He also made himself a set of homemade infrared goggles using infrared LEDs, and he said this was for finding quads in the dark. So the idea of how this works is you take a piece of cardboard or a piece of paper and you draw around the frame of your quad and you cut it out of cardboard. And then using two of these sheets, you install some LEDs, you do the wiring. This is obviously partway through. And it's a bit messy. And when this is done, you sandwich it together. And you will see that little balance port he's got there, and that's for supplying power. And once you have this, you can just slam it under your quad. And it basically it goes under the, or sandwiches in between the battery. Is this going to play? Hello. There was a video there. Hang on. Try it again. Video does not want to play. Hang on, I've got a backup. If it goes wrong, I've got a backup screen share to do. Where are we? Hello again. I'm over here. Let me just share a different window on my screen just in case this went wrong. So stop screen there, share screen there. Take a different window, which is this one. So this is one of those little LEDs installed under a quad, and it's super bright. And you can see it doesn't look like it's something just sandwiched under there. It looks like it's part of it. But of course, you can just take it out again. Mark also made up these sort of generic rectangle ones. So if he's out flying with a friend who hasn't got LEDs, he can just give them one of these. They can shove it under their battery. They can plug in with a balance lead. They can fly together. Mark's idea is not about flying at night time. It's more about being able to see each other in the sky. And although these fly up amazingly during dusk, you'll find that if you're flying even during the day with a quad, then if you've got LEDs on it, you can see it really, really easily. Right, next one. We'll stick to this. So, next up is Lewis, better known as Lurgy. Of course, we saw Lurgy earlier. Hope you all built your little chuck gliders. So what Lurgy did is he's always been into cars. In fact, the first time I met him, he was just driving around these great big sort of 18-wheel scale truck things. He wanted to do FPV drifting, which is not an easy thing because obviously as the car goes, then you're facing the wrong way. So he came up with two ideas, and we'll show you a quick video of both of these. The first one was using an airplane gyro, and you see as he turns the car here, the camera tries to change direction to sort of keep forward facing, and he thought that might work. The other one, which is a little bit harder to see, is this little freewheeling thing, and what it's got is this kind of solid flag. The idea is the airflow that comes along as he drives along will always meet the sort of flag go straight behind, and the idea was that the GoPro would focus straight behind and it would capture some trace footage. So let's see how both of those went. So it's a tale of mixed thing. Here was the FPV footage from the drift car, and this didn't go so well. It was still really hard to feel for him how it was all going sideways and stuff. But have a look at the rear footage from the chase view, and you can see in the bottom right corner there, you've got the quads chasing and you've got the car in front, and you can see the back end of the car going out and the camera really staying still, even when the car gets really sideways. The only weird thing, of course, is it's a car driving along with a great big post sticking out. But this was a really fantastic idea, and it's really worked well. If he could just get that, so he can work on an FPV camera for the front where he can see in the same sort of detail as he can see the back, he'll be onto something there. Okay. Next up is Carl of RC Robotics, who incidentally is coming up just after this, and will be doing a build video. But don't let this put you off. So what, I mean, Carl's another one of a sort of what you'd call a serial inventor / wacky builder. This is his Mario Kart wing, and he actually did something on Mario Kart before. He made a little quad, and Mario Kart, the game, as it progressed, when you go over a jump, you basically grow a little sort of hang glider, and you sort of float along a bit. So he made a quad, and the quad, as you can see from this video, worked quite well. And what he thought he'd do is he'd remove that little Yoshi figure, and he'd put it on a wing, which is this little chap here. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the size of that car, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's pretty much what I expected. But Carl thought, I know, I'll take off the heavy bit, I'll leave the Yoshi on, and that's going to work absolutely fine after that. Did it? It did not. I think it was Albert Einstein that said, insanity is doing the exact same thing but expecting different results. But I like the fact that Carl is so in denial about this being able to fly. He just keeps on chucking it and chucking it. At the end of it, I think he's throwing it harder than the motor can do. So all this is pretty much gliding. But there's his run along and throw. That was his different thing. So not a great success, but it really did give me some giggles on just what he was trying to do. At this point, the motor mount was severely broke. Well, it worked quite well as a glider, actually, in terms of it went further. So next up, and this is where Fraser can get worried, was Fraser's hydrofoil boat. And of course, I don't think Fraser entered this on purpose. The filmer was Andrew /Frank. And I'll say one thing to Andrew /Frank about filming. When you're filming with a phone, turn it this way, then it will fill our screen. What we basically got here is the idea is a sort of fast-moving, dual-hold hydrofoil boat, which is going to skip along the water majestically and is built out of basically spare quad bits. Anyone that's flown a couple of quads will have a couple of 2300 kV motors. This is built with a JEP RC stack, so it's got in that bundle of stuff a 4-in-1 ESC board, and it's got a flight controller. It's running iNav, and of course iNav doesn't have a setting for hydrofoil boat, so this particular boat thinks it's a plane as far as iNav goes. So let's take a look at how this went. I don't know if you guys are getting sound from this video, in which case I'm just going to have to describe it for you. I think it's fair to say, looking at this initial test, that the thrust angle wasn't quite right. And thus, this boat didn't just think it was a plane, it thought it was a submarine. But, you know, they managed to get it going kind of around. If you did it slowly, it would work okay. The problem being was when you put a little bit of power on, it sort of made it dive down. And you can see this a bit. Occasionally, you'll just see the front go down, and then you get a big mist of water there as it goes in. Now, somewhere on this, I'm not sure where, because they didn't send me this video, they decided what they'd do is add a little bit more ballast to the front, or flotation to the front. So at some point, this suddenly developed 2 plastic bottles in order to make it float better. And as you can see, the 2 plastic bottles worked perfectly, and essentially it turned into an inverted submarine. What I do appreciate, Fraser, again, like all great inventors, he's completely in denial about what a great success this was, and just how good it was, as you can see with the amount of water coming out again. Fantastic. So the fix for this one is obviously to move the thrust angle, because it's making it go down. Fraser's told me these are epoxied on, so that's not going to happen. So instead, they're just going to lengthen it, and therefore you make it float, you make it lengthened, and basically it changes so it won't dip down anymore. That's the plan anyway. Okay, lastly, from Jack, who we just saw, we have what we call the Mavic, not a Mavic. And if you're wondering, that's a bit of a weird entry. The clue is in the name, where it's not a Mavic. Just checking chat there, just make sure I haven't missed anything. And we also have to acknowledge a partner in crime, Sheldon, again in the last clip. And there's Jack, who's sporting an excellent T-shirt and probably gets the win just from that, is just showing how a Mavic goes in his pocket. So what happened with this? Essentially, Jack acquired a broken Mavic Pro. And it wasn't just the fact it was broken. This Mavic Pro had crashed into the sea. And you can imagine salt water, electronics and everything. It was an absolute state. But what he wanted to do was take it apart and build it into a proper quad. I've got a bit of video I've managed to scavenge from Jack after he sent me 26 gigabytes. This is some bits I've got. So Jack had to basically strip it all down, remove everything, clean off all the saltwater gunge, and then he was in sort of a voyage of discovery, just trying to work out how to fit stuff in. So what he did, he put a KISS flight controller and ESC in. He replaced the original motors with DJI motors and DJI props. The battery holder got hollowed out so he could put a proper LiPo in there. And essentially, he rebuilt it from scratch. And the point is, it looks like a Mavic to all intents and purposes. And Jack even delighted in doing a fake DJI dance, which obviously wasn't needed because it doesn't have a GPS. And this is it flying. So Sheldon's actually flying this because it's mostly done line of sight, this one. But I think you'll agree that it is a different Mavic than how you'd think. And I think the best thing about it is from the outside, it intensely does look like a Mavic. If you're hearing sound on that, you would have heard as it spins, because it's using DJI props and they fold, there is flex. And so as it spins, those props hit the frame of the quad. So the DJI Mavic is not the perfect acrobatic quad, but, you know, it will certainly do it. So hats off to Jack and Sheldon for putting this one together, because it's pretty amazing stuff. Now, what we don't have is any DVR FPV footage. And this is because they went and tried to make it so Mavic looking, the camera is mounted on a sort of that fake gimbal. And so the camera jiggles around as the gimbal kind of moves. So that is the problem. But that is a pretty exciting result for that. So personally, my winner of that one was Jack and his Mavic, not Mavic quad. And that's not because he's wearing the T-shirt that happens to have my logo on it. Just because of the amount of research he had to do and fiddling about as he went in for that. You'll notice that every video where Jack's working on it, it's got somebody else there in the corner. This isn't because we were helping him. As it turns out, whenever you're on any sort of call with Jack, he's not actually paying attention to you. He's always got his head down doing something. And we're like, what are you doing? And he's like, just soldering. And it turns out he was building that all the time. So yeah, those were our entries. If you disagree with the winner, you can post in the chat and discuss it amongst yourselves. All interesting entries and some really interesting solutions to things and some really fantastic failures. So thanks, everybody. Oh, hang on. What's this? You've got a bit more time if you want it. Can you run down the options again? What do you mean the options? Reminders. What reminders of who you were? If you want to vote for your own fun, you've got Matt and his beautiful looking right-wing recon, which really goes in the what was that competition called? The something to excellence, where we'd celebrate the nicest constructed model. We also had Catch-22 Mania with his Tiny Hawk LEDs, which were for flying in the dark. Then we had Mark's LEDs, and his idea was to make something that you could easily remove and put back on and power through a balance port. I did like this as something so simple that people just hadn't thought about it. But now I thought about it, I was like, that is a really good idea. Then we had Lurgy with his drift car, although the FPV drift car FPV bit wasn't so good, but the rear-facing camera looked really, really tidy. We like that. We had Carl and his abysmal attempt, which even made my attempts at flying look good, and his Yoshi wing. I hope he continues with it, though, because it should fly. I think it just needs a bigger wing. We had Fraser and his hydrofoil. This gets disqualified because they filmed the entire thing in portrait, and I'm not having that. And then we had Jack, my winner, for his Mavic, not a Mavic, which was basically a reconstructed Mavic with a KISS flight controller, but still looks very much like a Mavic. Vote now, somehow. Oh, Lurgy votes Fraser for entertainment value. Carl's Yoshi plane comes up. Carl was my takeaway winner for a while because it amused me so much. But then Jack came in with a build that actually works. So I thought, you know, that's only fair. Oh, thank you. Corpse the Excellence, Jack. Looks like Jack is getting mostly the winner. Let me check on my other chat. Have I got any other chat here? Richard Warwick saying chat. Jack is saying Lurgy is lovely. Got to be Jack. Mavic, not Mavic. Jack looks like the winner. We don't say that very often. What's gone wrong in the world? Best idea, I think, is a hydrofoil, but the most successful is Mavic, not Mavic. I hope all the guys that tried and sort of failed, Fraser, will keep going with I vote Mark. I'll win Curry Kit and Stigger. You can have one if you want, Mark. Yeah, I hope the guys that didn't quite do as they wanted to will keep going. I mean, Lurgy and trying to get FPV on a drift car, I know, is something a lot of people are working on, and I think maybe head tracking is the way to go. I know Andy RC has just got into drift cars recently, and he's trying to put head tracking in. One of the problems is, it seems, that your normal controller with your sort of twist wheelie thing for doing steering, often you can't get a trainer port going out, and that's what you need to go into your goggles to basically pick up your movements to do that. So yeah, Lurgy, keep going. Fraser, keep trying. And who's the other one? Oh yeah, Carl, keep going. I mean, Carl's coming up next. He should be on now. Why is he late? With his, was it a Black Hawk helicopter design, build along, which I'm sure is going to work much better than his wing, and just as well as his quad. That's me. I'm done. I speeded stuff up to finish on time, and now he's late. I like the speeder bike too. I did like the speeder bike as well, and I'm looking forward to seeing the proper TIE fighter, essentially. Yeah, come on, Carl. Are you there? Ready to go live? I've run out of stuff to say. I had it all written down. I'm not receiving anything. Oh no, I can't fill in for that. Is there an LDO later? Is there an LDO later? I haven't mentioned to my wife that yet. Ah, we're ready. I've been taken offline on MAS6, so thanks for everybody that joined me here. Stop watching me on here and carry on watching over. I'm pointing at his because my window's over there. Probably not for you. Yeah, thanks for everybody watching, and I'm going to go and now watch Carl's stuff on the Mini Airshow 6 stream, although it doesn't seem to be there yet. Hopefully we will soon, and I'll catch you next one, guys. Bye for now. See you later.